Welcome, everyone. My name is Alex Gashanja, and I am joined by Doug Goltz, Dean of the Faculty of Science. We're really happy to have everyone who has joined us this evening. It's a cold evening, so thank you so much for joining us for our Faculty of Science webinar. I'd just like to acknowledge that the University of Winnipeg is located on Treaty 1 territory and the homeland of the Métis Nation. Our water is sourced from Shoal Lake, Fori First Nation. Just a couple of housekeeping as you're joining us this evening. Please utilize the Q&A function to put in your questions. There'll be lots of time at the end for questions. We're really looking forward to participant engagement. And as well, if at any time you've got questions that were not answered, I will be putting in the webinar function a contact information for the student recruitment department. So you'll have a way of contacting us in the event maybe your question has not been answered. But without further ado, I will welcome the Dean of the Faculty of Science here at the University of Winnipeg. The floor is yours, Doug.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. I haven't spoken to you in over 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's see here. I can make my full screen. And it went back to the display settings. There we go. How's that? Good. Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you, Alex. All right. Welcome, everybody, and good evening. Tonight, I want to talk about the Faculty of Science. My name is Doug Goltz. I'm the Dean of Science. I'm also a professor in the chemistry department here at the University of Winnipeg. And I'm happy to talk to you tonight a little bit about the faculty and give you some insight on what we do here at the University of Winnipeg. So the Faculty of Science resembles most faculties of science across Canada. We have pretty typical programs, pretty typical departments, such as chemistry, applied computer science, physics, geography, biology, anthropology, mathematics, environmental studies, and sciences. So we're looking at this list of departments. Yeah, you would probably conclude that it resembles many of the science departments you see in mid-sized universities across Canada. In larger universities, you might see geography folded into folded into earth science. But here at the University of Winnipeg, we fold it in nicely with our science program. Most of our departments, if not all of our departments, offer 3- and 4-year degree programs. And I don't mind talking a little bit about that. Students do ask me whether they should do a 3- and 4-year or a 4-year degree. And I guess that really depends on what you're doing, on what your career goals are or what your academic goals are. Typically, a 3-year degree you can think of as really a stepping stone. It can be a terminal degree for some people, that's for sure. But I quite often think of the 3-year degree as a stepping stone for other degrees, other programs. It's a doorway, it's a pathway into other programs such as education or medicine. However, if students want to go to graduate school, if they are thinking of MSCs or PhDs, then students should be thinking of doing a 4-year degree. As well as those departments, I also wanted to throw in here, so I made up a separate slide showing the full list of science degree options at the University of Winnipeg. So as well as the science degrees that or the science departments that I showed you, we also have programs that are attached to these departments, such as bioanthropology, which is attached to anthropology, neuroscience, which I've linked up with biology, and biochemistry, which is a program that's shared between the biology department and the chemistry department. So I've listed the degrees here because it is kind of interesting when you look at these departments or you look at these programs. You can see that departments such as environmental studies and sciences or geography offer more than one stream. Even though geography is housed in the Faculty of Science, the department offers a BA stream or a Bachelor of Arts stream, which would be focused on human geography, and the science stream or BSc stream would be more physical geography. As well as these programs, we also have what are called joint programs. So these are joint programs we have with other institutions. For example, psychiatric nursing, which is a joint program between the University of Winnipeg and Brandon University. We also have a joint environmental studies program that we run or we manage with Red River College Polytech. And finally, we also have a radiation therapy program. And this is a reasonably specialized program that's a joint program with Cancer Care Manitoba. And I don't mind taking a slide to talk a little bit about this program. It is specialized. So it's sort of a combined diploma degree program in radiation therapy. It's joint with the physics department at the University of Winnipeg and with Cancer Care Manitoba, which is located at Health Sciences, so half a kilometer north of here. What science typically do for this degree or for this program is a 4-year BSc with physics and a combined diploma at Cancer Care Manitoba. So it's both a university degree and a diploma program. It's not a large program, it's a specialized program. Typically 10 or fewer students are accepted into the program each year. And generally students should apply to this program after 1 year of study here at the University of Winnipeg. Now that doesn't prevent students in their second year or third year from applying to this program, but typically a minimum of 1 year. We also have a number of pre-professional programs that are listed in the calendar. And I should maybe give students a little bit of notice here or a little bit of warning about our pre-professional programs. These in themselves are not degrees. These are pre-professional programs, and you can think of them like a roadmap to help you prepare for professional schools or professional programs that are not offered at the University of Winnipeg. And in some cases, maybe not offered in the province, but they do. What these programs allow students to do is to give they give you a roadmap and a good way to follow required courses to get into each of these programs. And again, popular programs in the pre-professional, medicine, dentistry, veterinary medicine, physical therapy, dental hygiene, for example. So for a little bit more information, I threw in a link here on this slide. And again, I would visit the University of Winnipeg website, do a search for pre-professional programs, and it will take you to this site. There's information one-pagers for each of these pre-professional programs. Well, I mean, I've already said that our departments and our programs look a lot like a lot of science faculties in other schools in some ways, if you just look at the surface. So the question then somebody might ask, or you might ask, is why study science at the University of Winnipeg? Well, I can give you a lot of good reasons, but number one, reasonable class sizes and outstanding teaching, and they go together. At the University of Winnipeg, you can actually meet and talk to your professors. You can talk to your instructors. They'll get to know you, you'll get to know them, and it makes for a really positive learning environment here. What does the classroom look like for students in the Faculty of Science? Well, I would say for most first-year classes, the class size is typically 60 to 80, which again doesn't sound small, so I don't want to say small. And we rarely see more than 125. But 60 to 80 is a very manageable number for first-year students. Certainly that number goes down, like every school, as you go into second, third, and fourth year. By fourth year, class sizes can be anywhere from 8 to 10 students and as many as maybe 30. I mean, and of course, it depends on the department and it depends on the course. And I would argue by second year, you could already be in classes that have a really nice size of 30 to 40 students. And what's really nice about class sizes that are 30 to 40, you actually get to know your peers. You can learn with your peers. You can learn from your peers. Your professors will get to know you if you want them to get to know you. And again, it makes for a very positive learning environment. Many of our science departments, many of our science programs have teaching labs. We have a number of courses, a lot of courses with teaching labs, particularly chemistry and biology, with numerous labs. Our labs here are designed to have typically no more than 24. It would be unusual to have a lab that's bigger than 24. And again, this is for safety reasons, but it's also many of our teaching labs are quite hands-on. Students get firsthand experience using equipment, learning techniques, working one-on-one with instructors. And so a room size of 24 for hands-on learning is ideal. Typically in a lab with 24 as well, you might have one instructor, or you could have one instructor and possibly one lab demonstrator as well. What does outstanding teaching look like at the University of Winnipeg in the Faculty of Science? Well, in the last few years, we've had some outstanding teachers who are also outstanding scholars that have been recognized for their excellent teaching. In 2021, Dr. Anna Stocky, for example, in the Mathematics and Statistics Department, won the 3M National Teaching Fellowship. So this is Canada's most prestigious award for excellence in post-secondary teaching and educational leadership. Dr. Stocky is an outstanding teacher. She actually teaches in the mathematics program and is well regarded among her peers. She's also an excellent scholar and a mentor for students. Ian Burley is an instructor in the physics department. He's a busy man. He teaches our first year physics course, but he also teaches a number of labs for the physics department. If you're a student in physics, whether you're taking it as your major or you're taking it as an elective, chances are you will meet Ian Burley. And Ian Burley was recognized for his outstanding teaching in 2019 with the Clifford J. Robertson Memorial Award for Teaching Excellence. Why else should you study science at the University of Winnipeg? Well, it isn't just about teaching. We have excellent teaching here. We also have outstanding people, wonderful people, faculty and staff, as well as students who care about their community, who pay attention to the bigger picture, not just the classroom. So I just picked out two faculty members that I thought were really good examples of excellence in community service. This was easy for me to do. Ms. Valerie McKinley, I've linked her to anthropology. She actually reports to the library, but I've taken her into anthropology because Valerie McKinley is our museum curator, and she looks after our collections, and most of our collections are in anthropology. Valerie McKinley got the Claire Atchison Award for Excellence in Community Service for her service to students, the city, and Indigenous communities. Dr. Richard Westwood in 2021 won the Claire Atchison Award for Excellence in Community Service. Dr. Westwood is what I would say a forestry expert. He's an outstanding scholar, and he's an entomologist. And he got this award even as an outstanding scholar and scientist. He still finds time for community service, and he won the Claire Atchison Award for public awareness of trees in urban environments. So if you are a student in environmental studies and sciences, and you have an interest in forestry or entomology, Dr. Westwood would be somebody you would want to meet. Well, those are outstanding faculty. We also have outstanding students here, and that goes without saying. And I can't talk about all of them, but I can certainly pick on a few. And so what I've done is just picked on Evan Loeb and Melissa Anderson. So Evan graduated in biochem, Melissa Anderson graduated in physics. I want to just highlight these two people for their outstanding work in launching the Canadian chapter of the American Indigenous Science and Engineering Society at the University of Winnipeg in 2019. Sounds like a specialized group, but they are just a special group and a very active group on campus. And amazingly, won chapter of the year in 2020. Basically, they won the award in their first year. And in 2022, so just this fall, I found out they won the chapter development award. Not too bad. So well done to that group. So just an example of outstanding science and outstanding students in our faculty. Okay, so outstanding teaching, outstanding people. Why else should you study science at the University of Winnipeg? Well, another good reason to come here would be research opportunities. So I talked about class size and the ability for students to meet their peers, talk to their peers, but as well talk to their professors and talk to their instructors. You can meet and talk to your professors here quite readily. Our professors are quite open. Pretty much everybody has an open door policy and quite receptive to meeting with students. Professors in every department, I would say, in the Faculty of Science actively provide research opportunities to our undergraduate students. And so this is just examples of professors. So each of these pictures has professors in them working with their students, whether they're working with students in the field or whether they're working with students in their labs. These are pictures of what lab groups look like. So they aren't groups of 30, they're groups of anywhere from 3 to 5, maybe a little bit bigger, depending on the time of year. But what these do, these opportunities give students is an opportunity to work closely with a faculty member on a research project, pushing the boundaries of science, answering difficult questions. We also have world-class facilities and laboratories here at the University of Winnipeg, not just in the Richardson College for the Environment and Science Complex, but the Richardson College is our newest building. You can see it on Portage Avenue. We have outstanding research facilities, nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, mass spectrometers, scanning electron microscopes, excellent classrooms. Because it's a relatively new structure, world-class facilities, I would say. Maybe a little picture about, just to give you some insight into what our teaching labs look like. So our typical undergraduate research teaching labs. So the picture on top would be our first year. That looks like our first year chemistry, with the snorkels in the middle and the whiteboards on the side. Actually, that might not be chemistry. That might be our biology. I can see some anatomy on the left-hand side there. So that would probably be our first year biology. And I see a fume hood and a ventilation hood in the bottom picture. That would be our first year chemistry. So this is typically an example of what our first year labs look like. Our research labs are a little bit different. So before we moved in, they looked clean and world-class, and they still are world-class. But once people move in and start doing work, and these are a couple of students on the bottom working for a professor in the chemistry department, in actually biochemistry, you can see the the situation changes over time once people get working. So what are some of the other opportunities for our undergraduate students in the Faculty of Science? Well, I would say student clubs exist in most departments, if not all departments. Actually, I can't think of a department that doesn't have a club, meaning an association or a student group attached to a department. So for example, chemistry department would have a chemistry student association. The biology department would have the biology department student association. These are great groups because they're great for socializing and peer activities and mentoring and community building and team spirit, right? We also have the Students of Science Association, SOSA. Many departments encourage their students to attend undergraduate student conferences. Here on campus, right here at the University of Winnipeg, we have the Randy Kobes Science Symposium every year. The university also has an outstanding math and science tutoring center. And I have to admit, it does say math and science, but it seems to be a lot of math, statistics, chemistry, and physics students that take advantage of this tutoring center. But we still call it Math and Science Tutoring Center. Of course, we have the Canadian Indigenous Science and Engineering Society. So there are a lot of things going on campus, that's for sure, if you're a science student. Departments like anthropology and geography and environmental studies and sciences and biology also offer what are called field courses or field schools. So these are opportunities where students can take a course and actually go out into the field and do some very hands-on learning, possibly in support of a research project, a small research project, but not necessarily affiliated with a research project. So for example, Churchill has a field school typically that runs every second year. Of course, all of these field schools were interrupted by the pandemic, so I can't guarantee every second year. And now we're getting back into back to normal sort of scheduling. And so I'm expecting field schools to be starting up again in the next year or two. Geography also went to Puerto Vallarta in 2019, for example. That was mostly human geographers that went up there, and you can see it's an eclectic mix of students as well as faculty. Of course, we have our forest ecosystems field course and environmental studies field camps. Again, every year there's a field course somewhere for forestry, and every second year, quite often, they'll have a field camp. As well as these great opportunities to learn in the field, to learn hands-on, and have really great opportunities to work with faculty, to learn from faculty. A number of professors here at the university, in fact, almost all of them, offer undergraduate research opportunities. Now, I wouldn't say these are restricted to senior undergraduate students, but quite often senior undergraduate students. So students in their third and fourth year are often highly engaged in research activities at the University of Winnipeg. Now, that doesn't mean every undergraduate student. The ones that who've expressed an interest in research and have linked up with the professor if they're really serious about research, there's a lot of opportunities here at the University of Winnipeg. Quite often, professors hire undergraduate students to work as research assistants, either in their labs during the summer or sometimes during the school year as well. Many undergraduate students are also included as co-authors on peer-reviewed publications in scientific journals. So this is the mentoring piece that an opportunity that undergraduate students get when they work with a professor here at the University of Winnipeg. Our students also have opportunities to support teaching either in the classroom or in teaching labs. Again, a number of departments such as chemistry and biology and even geography certainly hire a number of students to work as markers. And in chemistry and biology, even senior undergraduate students help the instructors as lab demonstrators. So now that I've convinced you that getting a science degree here at the University of Winnipeg is an outstanding opportunity and why you should come here, what do you do, or what do our undergraduate students do after they've completed their degrees? And I guess it depends on what kind of degree we're talking about. But the most common pathway for our undergraduate students is typically graduate school. Here at the University of Winnipeg, we have 3 graduate schools in the geography department, environmental studies, in applied computer science, and in the biology department. Many of our students end up going to professional school. I would say programs like biology, chemistry, and biochemistry, maybe neuroscience, they're probably the most popular degree program for students that are planning a career path in the Faculty of Medicine, let's say, for example. And of course, there's always employment. I can assure you, programs like applied computer science have students that rarely have trouble finding employment these days. On a personal note, I've been teaching here at the University of Winnipeg for over 25 years and have had a number of students who worked with me either in my lab or in courses. And I can tell you, they've ended up in a number of surprising places. They've become chemistry instructors at other schools, at other universities. At least one of my students ended up in the Manitoba government in industrial hygiene. Even though I teach chemistry, I had a student who went to law school. I've had multiple students who've ended up in pharmacy, dentistry, medicine, veterinary school, of course, graduate school here at the University of Winnipeg. Students, I would say, who take a lot of math courses and physics courses, position them very well for engineering programs. Students who've ended up getting jobs after graduating in their 4th year, a number of them have worked for the City of Winnipeg. I've had a couple, 2 or 3 that have worked who now work for the City of Winnipeg. Of course, we do have a number of local labs such as ALS, Maxim, Polycast, Genvine, Duha, who've hired our students. And of course, we do have students that do an after-degree program in education and become high school teachers, for example. So these are just a list of students that I've had. And I was trying to think of, where have most of them ended up? And I don't have a simple answer for that because they end up everywhere. Okay. On that note, I will stop my share and see if there's any great questions I can answer.
Thanks so much for that very informative presentation, Doug. I really like the slide of where students ended up because that's
it's surprising.
It is very surprising, and it's a question we do get quite often. As when I'm talking to prospective students in the high schools, and I tell them, hey, where you can end up after the University of Winnipeg is, there's so many options, I love that example of a science student who ended up in law school.
Her name was Gordana.
Yeah.
And I was so surprised because she was a fourth-year chemistry major. And and in her fourth year, she took an interest in basically in human rights.
Mm.
And thought she wanted to, I mean, she liked chemistry. It wasn't that, but she started taking an interest in bigger issues in the world. So she finished her chemistry degree, but then she did electives, and she did one extra year of study to take more arts majors, and then qualified for law. So
amazing.
Our chair of environmental studies and sciences right now is a fellow named Dr. Alan Diddick. By training, he is a lawyer, but he's a lawyer in environmental law.
Yes,
so,
absolutely. Yes.
So there you go. Yeah.
A good connection. We do have one question here, and I think I can answer this one.
I bet you can.
Are there any classes on evenings? Yes, there are. We do. The University of Winnipeg does have evening classes, class options, but I will say it's not really feasible to complete a full degree by virtue of just taking evening classes. So you're going to have to spend some time on campus during the day. But yes, you definitely have some evening options. I have one question for you, Doug. Something that in the student recruitment department, we go out to students, to schools, we talk to prospective students. Most of them are grade 12 students, but also some grade 11 students. A question that we do get from time to time is students often ask us, in terms of prerequisites at the University of Winnipeg when it comes to the biological sciences, for the U of W, it's chemistry 40S. Students do ask, how is chemistry 4ES a better preparation? I think you know where this one's going. How is it a better preparation for a biochemistry major or a biology major as opposed to, say, biology 4ES? Get that.
Well, yeah, Alex, I have to admit, that surprises me too. Like, it surprised me too when I learned that 20 years ago.
Okay.
And I mean, the simple answer is I think, honestly, to prepare students for sciences, it's hard to cover everything in biology, I think. In biology itself, is a course. I mean, it's hard to define a course like biology. Biologists typically fall into two sort of groups, two very large groups. You have what I would call molecular biologists or cell biologists, and these are your kind of biochemistry people. These are the people that look at or study DNA, genetics. So they're doing sort of the biochemistry piece.
Yes.
And then you have the ecology biologists. Those are the people that are studying animal behavior. And it's such a varied group. So how the decision was made to make 40S chemistry the deciding point, I would say it's to make sure those students that are doing the cell biology piece are actually qualified to do that cell biology, to do the genetics, to do the molecular biology piece.
Gotcha.
So, and you don't necessarily get that in biology, because biology courses can be heavy on the ecology piece, which doesn't prepare the students for those first year courses. But if they take chemistry, they're in good shape for them.
Perfect.
Now, having said that, what I have learned after 25 years is the importance, believe it or not, the importance of communication and mathematics for science students. So if I had to say, it's always great if students come to the University of Winnipeg with physics and chemistry and biology 40S. If they take those 40S courses, they're in great shape. But the most important courses to me, mathematics, because you have to quantify things, and English, because you have to communicate. Now, if you can communicate in more than one language, if you want to communicate in English and French, that's even better. But communication is really important. It's really important for scientists.
Excellent, excellent. And our communication options at the U of W could serve as really great electives for those science majors. Okay, excellent. And it's good to hear. It's good to hear that you were surprised 20 years ago.
I was.
Yeah, and it's reassuring because students do get surprised and they're like, oh, really? I need chemistry and not biology. So it kind of hits home that there are no stupid questions. There are no even obvious questions.
No.
We are really here to give you as much information as possible in order for you to make that decision, whether to come to the University of Winnipeg or and what major to take. I've got another question. We've got a few here. I'll just interject and just quickly ask, in terms of research opportunities, you talked quite a bit about the research opportunities that students can pursue. Typically, what year do students get into those research opportunities? Is it second year? Is it third year? Is it varied?
I would say the further along students get, the more skills they pick up. So they become more valuable to the researchers here at the University of Winnipeg.
Okay.
But they can certainly start after first year. You do see professors hiring students right after first year. Not a lot, but even after second year, students start to become a lot more familiar with techniques and methodology that's used for research. And so, yeah, I would say the majority, though, are your third and fourth year. And that wouldn't rule out anybody. We even see the occasional high school student working with a professor. So,
okay.
Yeah, it happens for sure.
It happens for sure. Excellent. Got a question here that's a little bit related to graduate students. What opportunities exist for graduate students who want to enter the environmental science graduate program, but have their bachelor in, say, I guess, a social science? Is that even possible?
That's a very good question. So our environmental studies graduate program has 3 streams. So they have a Bachelor of Science stream, which would not appeal to that student, I suspect. They have a Master's in Environmental and Social Change stream, but they also have a BA stream. So I imagine, depending on their interests in environmental studies, the BA stream might be very of great interest to them, because the BA stream has, I say, more of an emphasis on environmental human factors of the environment. For example, how people are impacted by energy use, or how people are impacted by climate change, for example. So they do have a BA stream. So that might appeal to that type of student for sure. Okay.
Thanks so much. Another question here. What are some extracurriculars for prospective med students in the third year undergraduate pre-med program? I suppose they want to know what else could a student, and we do get this question from time to time, in terms of what else could a student do at the University of Winnipeg in the Faculty of Science on top of their classes if they are thinking of going into med school. I usually tell students, to think about research opportunities, but are there other, non-classroom activities that can really help a student as they are thinking about med school?
Yeah, I think I think you've hit it right on the head there, Alex. I think you've nailed it. I think students, even if they are thinking of medicine or pre-medicine, shouldn't rule out exploring the possibility of doing research. It's actually surprising how many students who come into the university in their first year are thinking of medicine or dentistry or pharmacy. And by the time they get to their third and fourth year, they start to see other pieces of the medical field, other of the medical industry, if you want to say it that way. And research, and medical research is certainly an important piece. So extracurricular, I wouldn't rule out taking an interest in that. If students do work for a professor in the summer, for example,
Right.
that certainly doesn't look bad on a CV if a student is applying for medicine. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. And then this is somewhat related. The student here is asking, could you explain a little bit more about the pre-med program? It is extremely popular, as you know,
yes,
with high school students.
Well, it is. I mean, we get a lot of questions about pre-med.
Yes,
and
yes,
and
absolutely.
that's fair, because a lot of students coming out of high school are certainly thinking of the healthcare industry as a career option. There's definitely, whether that's medicine or what. So what I would say to students, if they have an interest in medicine, if they're very serious about medicine, and again, they don't have to make this decision in high school. They don't have to make this decision in first year. I would say most medical schools, and in particular, we have one, they don't list degree requirements to get into their program. But the truth is, I've been here for 25 years. I've never met a student who got into medicine at the University of Manitoba without a degree. I've never met one. And I'm not talking about pre-medicine as their degree. I've never met a student without a degree who got into. Now, it doesn't, can't say that they don't exist. I've just never met one. So what I think students need to understand about the pre-medicine or the pre-professional program for medicine is that it's truly a roadmap. It lists courses that are really good to take for those students who want to get into medicine. But the honest truth is, once they get to be in third year, fourth year, they should really think about completing a degree, whether it's a degree in neuroscience, chemistry, biochemistry, biology. But I mean, we have students in physics that get into medicine too. We have students in other departments that certainly get into medicine. Kinesiology is a very popular program. Athletic therapy is a very popular program for students who are thinking about medicine. And the advantage of getting that degree in that program, so if they get a degree in biology, it's a great fallback. Whereas if a student takes pre-medicine, that's good. They're following a really good roadmap, but it in itself doesn't lead to a career. So I would certainly be cautioning students to think carefully about that.
Okay, excellent. And in your teaching experience as a prof at the U of W, typically do you what are some of I guess the common questions that first year students will ask or struggle with in terms of their energy of wanting to do well in their courses, but then not really understand, knowing that it's different from high school? Like, what type of advice would you give those incoming first years students?
Oh, that's a tough question. There's no answer for that.
Yeah, there's none. I'm here to ask the tough questions.
Oh boy, why didn't you give me that question ahead of time? So that's a very, very good question. That's a way better question than students might realize if they're listening in. What separates our really top students from our good students? Our top students from the top students manage their time very well. I think, and they stay organized. I would say that's what separates them. So for success, I always tell students each term is 12 weeks. Put your life on hold for 12 weeks. It's only 12 weeks. Focus on school for 12 weeks, right? Then you've got Christmas break, then 12 more weeks. I know it's easy for me to say that, but if you're 19 or 20, it's a lot harder to do.
That is really good advice. Yeah, that's really, really great advice. And I think students, especially, I like how you prefaced it. What separates a good student from a top student? And
Yeah.
so that's really wonderful context.
I-
I think I have a
I've scared
point.
somebody here.
Yes, yeah, just a little point of clarification.
For sure. I don't mind giving a point of clarification. No, pre-medicine, pre-med, if you're following the pre-medicine program, the pre-professional program, and maybe repeat myself, the University of Manitoba does not require a degree to get into their program, right? The pre-professional program we have here for medicine, for pre-medicine, again, is a very good roadmap. It's designed to make sure students get the courses they need to set them up for the best opportunity to get into medicine, that's for sure. And same goes for dentistry and occupational health and veterinary medicine. These are all very competitive programs. And I think students, when they come out of high school, starting in first year, they might not realize, what's required to get into a program like dentistry or pharmacy or medicine. Like a program like medicine, they don't put a lot of weight on GPA, on the grades that students have. They put a lot of weight on things like the MCAT exam. So they put a lot of emphasis on the interview. So students that get to that interview stage to get into medicine, that's where the emphasis is on getting into medicine. It isn't whether you've taken third year calculus at the UW. That's not going to make or break anything, right?
Excellent. Yeah. So for that student, you're on the right path with pre-med.
Yes,
You're on the right path. Don't worry.
and I would also say, and I know you would say the same thing, Alex, there is no wrong path.
True. Yes.
The only path is education. So if students follow their interests, that is the path for sure. And there's almost no problem. You can't paint yourself into a corner with education. If you go down a path and it doesn't, you don't get into medicine, for example, there's always another way. You can apply twice. Yep. You can do that. So, and you can apply 3 times. I've met students that apply 3 times and get into medicine. So, there's no one answer. You can't paint yourself into the corner.
Perfect. Excellent. And the student says they're no longer terrified.
Oh, good.
Excellent.
Okay. Apologies if I scared them.
Not a problem. Excellent.
But a plan B is always good, though.
Yes.
I've met students who didn't have a plan B and have gotten into, actually they got into optometry, but that's okay. It's risky though. I always think the best thing is to have a plan B. So if your plan A is optometry or medicine, that's great. And I would say follow plan A as long as you can, but always have a plan B. And whether plan B is applied computer science or anthropology, have a good plan B. Have a good fallback. I think it might surprise students to know that, how many students actually coming into first year with medicine or dentistry as their life goal, who end up in graduate school. And it's and it's an okay, like they end up in medical school, or sorry, they end up in graduate school, but they're doing medical research. And so it's all good.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to have. It's the process of being a university student really opens up those ideas and those doors. I sometimes I often joke when I'm in schools talking to high school students and say that when I'm born and raised in Kenya, and when I was a high school student, you only ever heard of 5 professions: doctor, lawyer, teacher, engineer, and nurse.
True.
That's it. Those
Yeah.
were the only professions. And coming to the University of Winnipeg really opened up my eyes as to what you can do with your degree and the type of skills that you're building, whether you're a science student, whether you're an art student, whether you're a business student. The world is right now extremely dynamic, and there's lots of different options. It really is about those skills that you're building.
It's true. It's true.
And now a little bit about careers in terms of, again, we get sometimes, every so often, we get these questions from students who are interested in something like forensic science, for example. It's not a major at the University of Winnipeg, but for such a student, what type of preparation in terms of our majors would be really good?
Ooh, that's a good question. Boy, how did you come up with these questions?
We get these questions from students from time to time. So we just they're coming to you now.
Well, we used to have a forensic lab here with the RCMP here at Winnipeg. It's actually closed. I have visited the there's a big forensic lab in Ottawa. Again, it's an RCMP lab.
Yeah.
So forensic labs are typically attached to the RCMP. Now, that doesn't mean a student has to be in the RCMP to work in one of these labs, but they are attached to the RCMP. Let's see it's not like TV.
Yes.
It's definitely not like television. CSI Miami might not be the most accurate. What you find in forensic laboratories is fairly highly specialized people. So on TV, that forensic scientist will be doing genetics for part of the episode, and then they'll migrate over to the chemistry lab and do some gas chromatography, and then they'll do some other paint analysis and hair analysis and microscopy. But the truth is, a career in forensic science usually means a very highly specialized career in one of those areas. And I haven't looked lately, so my information might be a little bit out of date, but the last time I had a conversation with a forensic science person, they at that time, which is a few years ago, there was a real push for DNA evidence, genetics work, and that sort of thing. Polymerase chain reaction, biochemistry, biology. There was a heavy emphasis on that. So if a person were to work in a forensic lab, let's say, they would probably be a biologist or a chemist or a biochemist, and they'd be highly specialized
in those fields.
In those fields, it's not like TV
cool.
where you're investigating a murder scene. No, you're actually in a lab all day. Doing genetics or doing microscopy work. I mean, so it's a little bit different.
Okay, excellent. I mean,
I don't know if that answers the.
No, that perfectly answers it, and having it really emphasizes that having that base in biology, in chemistry, in biochemistry is a great stepping stone. I think I remember in your presentation you talked about those stepping stones, and that seems like a really great stepping stone to further studies, further specialization, and a really focused career. And so. And as you mentioned, we've got labs at the University of Winnipeg, so you're going to be getting that lab experience right from the get-go, right?
I think a BSc would train you very well for a career in forensic science. You don't have very many forensic science programs in North America. They don't exist, or at least they're not necessarily as useful as you might think, because if a forensic lab, if an RCMP lab is looking for somebody to do blood alcohol analysis or biological tissue analysis, I mean, that they're looking for experts in that area. And so if a student has a BSc, they certainly have the expertise to learn those techniques, which would probably learn I hate to say this, but they would learn that on the job if they
Mm.
were hired to do that job.
Okay.
If that helps too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not like TV.
Not many things are like TV.
No.
That's for sure.
That's right.
That's for sure.
Yeah,
Not
none of
many
them are
things.
investigating a murder. They've got the evidence in front of them and they're doing the work.
Absolutely, absolutely. Excellent. We're about 4 minutes away from time. If there are any last questions, please put them in the chat, in the Q&A. Any
And if they
last
think of
words?
something later, they can always reach out by
Yeah,
email or
absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely. Reach out by email. I'm just going to put our email, the recruitment email address in the chat function. And I think there might be a question or comment. Okay. This looks like a question from a student in Philippines. Yes, I will
say,
answer that. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say
yeah. Yes. Okay. Will the recording be available to view later on? Yes, it will be available. So for anyone who's coming, joining us a little bit late, the recording will be available.
Nice.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, let me just quickly answer that. Okay. All right.
Alex, what was your major?
So I did two actually. I had a business degree and then I did a BA in conflict resolution.
Oh, interesting.
CRS. Yeah. Conflict res. Business was kind of fairly standard. Loved it. I knew that I pretty much knew I wanted to get a business degree after my first few courses, but conflict res was a little bit out of the blue. I needed an arts credit.
Yeah.
Intro to conflict resolution worked with my schedule. In my third year, I took that one course. I loved it. And I decided, you know what, I'm just going to take more courses.
Good for you. Wow.
That BA. Yeah, it was very serendipitous in the sense that I actually didn't know that was something that was offered at the University of Winnipeg, and I took it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was really great. Like just using that electives room. So essentially, I used my electives room to get a 3-year BA.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's amazing. I started in geology. I was a geology major in my first year, and I liked it. I liked geology. But I would say by the end of my second year, I realized I was taking a lot of chemistry courses as electives to go with my geology major.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And by the start of third year, I switched into chemistry. So I think this is where I say to students, you never paint yourself into a corner. There's always options. You can switch majors. You can change your mind. It's never too late.
It really is never too late. And, coming in as a student, whether you know exactly the path that you want to be in, or you want to be at university, but you've not yet made up your mind, U of W is such a great place because you've got those options in terms of your academics, and then you've got support from profs like yourself, Doug. You've got lots of support and also students who have taken this path.
Yes, students talk to each other.
Students talk to each other.
That's the most important.
Yeah,
if we can keep them talking to each other, right?
Exactly. Excellent. And I think we've answered. There was a quick question here at the end. How is it easy to switch majors? It's really easy.
Alex will say it just takes a piece of paper.
It really does. Only a piece of paper.
Only a piece of paper.
You're good to go. Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah. So in the interest of time, I'm going to wrap things up. It's been such a wonderful conversation. And I hope students who attended this webinar got some really great, useful information. I hope so. For those of you who have attended and you're coming to the U of W tomorrow, we are happy to see you. If not, hopefully we'll see you on campus in the fall. Once again, I want to thank you, Doug, for such an informative presentation. And we look forward to connecting again in tomorrow and in later other sessions. And so for now, I want to thank everyone again who has attended, and have a wonderful rest of your evening, and see you next time.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. You
All
and
right.
Evan made it easy.
I'm glad. Thank you so much.